Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday, November 1st, 2011, and this is the Day 9 Daily where we learn to be a better gamer. Amazingly, I paid rent today. Amazingly. It is the first of the month and I paid on time. Amazingly. I am a man who gets things accomplished. And speaking of accomplishments, for every accomplishment there is an anti-accomplishment. Last night's anti-accomplishment, playing Amnesia: The Dark Descent, while shitting my pants thoroughly for approximately 2 hours. All the VODs are already up on my archives over at day9.tv. That was a very emotional experience for me, and as a direct result of me playing Amnesia, today's daily is going to be slightly on the shorter side. Generally, we run about an hour, a little over an hour. We're probably going to be shooting for around 35 to 45 minutes because my throat is really sore from screaming. Like, really sore. Now, generally, if I do an event like an MLG or after a BlizzCon or an NASL, my throat is just so murdered from talking so much, from like meeting people and shaking hands, or just using the throat so much that I have to make sure to be careful to drink lots of liquids. And I've gotten to the point where I can pretty much avoid it without much of anything going wrong. However, it was a very emotional evening for me. I said things I didn't think a human could say. I did things I didn't think a human would ever do. And I sobbed. And I'll be doing it again on Wednesday. I'm not going to be doing Amnesia streaming tonight because I'm doing State of the Game this evening. But Wednesday, I will be. And I also want to talk a little bit on Wednesday why it's such a brilliantly designed game. Really excited. For today's daily, let's go ahead and introduce the topic and then announce Fun Day Monday and all that stuff. The topic for today's daily, in the first half, we're going to look at your attempts to play like Nestea in that ultra-solid style that emphasizes building a lot of drones, playing very defensively, and not worrying about getting things too quickly. Good stuff. That's going to be the first half. The second half, we're going to introduce a game between Select and MVP, where Select did some brilliant aggression to crush MVP. Some brilliant aggression to crush MVP, and got me all excited. What we've been doing for the last couple of days is a little chain daily, where I introduce a style, and then I say, please try it out. We did one for Terran, we did one for Protoss, and we did one for Zerg, and this is going to be the end. I'm not going to ask you to submit anything based upon the MVP Select game. What I do want from you is feedback on how you thought these dailies went, what you liked about them. Send that to feedback at day9.tv. It's very important for me. Wednesday and Thursday are just going to be hardcore, straight-up analysis, man mode. On Sunday, you US players are going to be very excited because we're going to be doing the casted free-for-all battles for the US subscribers. Yeah, we did that last week for the Euro subscribers, and that was an absolute ridiculous blast, so why not just do it again? Doing it on Sunday at 7 p.m. And Monday, many of you are saying, well, what's the Fun Day Monday topic going to be, Day 9? You haven't announced it. How do I have time to submit? Well, there's a group of people who don't get mentioned enough. It is the moderators of Day 9 TV who moderate the chat, who do all things good in keeping links to a minimum, cursing to a minimum unless it's funny, and just banning people who get out of line. You will get the chance to play against my mods in a 4v4. Whoever loses gets a 10-minute chat ban. That's right. It's going to be viewers versus moderators on Monday evening. I cannot wait to see the delight and excitement. By the way, mods, you guys are playing on Monday. Didn't tell you, did I? Oh, demolished. Yeah, well, you've been laughing at me while I'm screaming and shrieking like a sissy mini fin like last night on Amnesia. Now it's your chance to cry and to be banned from chat. By the way, best way to type banned? Banned. B&banned. Cool. Alright, so what we're going to look at now is 2 games of players trying to do the Nestea style. This game, submitted by Zessie, he's a gold level player and he plays far beyond gold level, using a lot of these guiding principles is the term I like to call it. He uses the guiding principles of Nestea, things like don't rush your layer. Do not or use your scouting Zerglings really, really aggressively. Be bold with your droning. We're going to see some specifics come up, and I like this because this game is kind of an on-track game, as I would say it. This is a very on-track game. It kind of plays out the way you'd want it to. There were other games that, that people submitted where things were less on track. We're going to look at that second. For now, let's look at an on-track game. Hey, look at this. Already, we're seeing good things. Look at this. Smart Overlord positioning. Would kind of prefer it to be over here, but this is also fine. Giving us a little bit of spotting. Zessie now pulling back. What we ended up seeing Nestea do was try to get away with building a lot of drones. That's what we're seeing Zessie do, mimicking Nestea. We saw Nestea get this hatch up, this third base up very early, and then we saw a fourth hatchery out of Nestea. All of this before upgrading to the layer. That's the approximate skeletal structure of Nestea's build order. It was very, very good stuff to watch in action. This sort of thing we have to be a touch careful of. Getting our Overlord into positions like this. And this is what's going to happen very frequently to folks when they're trying to do this like Nestea don't scout kind of style. Is they will end up losing a couple Overlords here and there. I always recommend making sure you don't float into the main, but that you float along the edges, the outskirts. That way you can see this barracks and just pull right on back. But that's okay, despite being thrown off a little bit. We're going to see Zessie recover quite nicely. Notice Zessie had enough money to get the queens. But again, this game ends up being fairly on track. 2 queens get constructed. We're going to get enough gas to get our speed upgrade. And we're going to proceed quite normally. Oh, pull guys out of gas, Zessie. Pull them out of gas. Pull them out of gas, Zessie. And there, they get pulled out of gas. Fantastic. Now, to note, I focused on this part of the game because this is something that I refer to as the smoothness of a build. It's not so much an error. It's you did the right thing, but not as well as you could have. You wanted to get 100 gas, get Zergling speed, and pop them out. But we got like 144 gas instead of 100 and we popped them out. Smoothness is something you want to look for a lot. Do not group smoothness problems, or what I call them as bumps all the time. Look for bumps as something totally separate from your decision making. Look at these as 2 independent things. For me, if I don't play for a while, one of the biggest bumps I have is that my mouse control feels a little bit off. So when I'm playing, I'm thinking, here's my build order. Let me make sure that my mouse is also another thing that I'm practicing sort of idly. Because a lot of times, before you end up making big changes, I want you to say something like, was my play too smooth or bumpy? So here is a moment where we see the Zerglings moving out for Zessie. And what we said was we wanted to be very, very cautious with our initial Zerglings. Let's actually go to the Zessie cam. We wanted to have incredible care with them. And right now, it looks like Zessie actually messed that up. He ended up losing this. And the reason I brought up that bumpiness a little bit, the reason I brought this bumpiness up is that this kind of mistake can make you feel like, yeah, I probably should have kept a better eye on that. However, this is actually a huge error in strategy. Because one of the big things that made Nestea's play good is that he could do these gentle pokings and proddings with his Zerglings. At this point in time, there's real no assurance that our opponent is early expanding. And that can be quite difficult. Now, here's something that we end up seeing Zessie do that I think could have been avoided. But I don't necessarily dislike this. We get caught off guard a little bit, and we go, oh crap, let's build spine crawlers. Now why would you do that? Because I said, as another guiding principle of an ST, try not to take damage, as opposed to try to do a lot of damage. Notice that Zessie has built drones nonstop this whole time. He's still leaving one guy in his gas geyser. He's still saving up to be able to build that third hatchery. Watch what happens in the production tab after he has seen this Reaper just kind of hanging out. Sure, he's positioning his queen to be able to maybe deal with this Reaper a little better. Accidentally loses that right off the bat. He's getting his extra queen up. He's going to go ahead and expand. Expanding right away. We don't see a huge flood of Zerglings getting made. In fact, as we speed this up, we're going to see Zessie instead continue with his build as normal. And he's going to continue going back to build drones. Now, for a gold level player, this is a dangerous moment in your mind. In reality, you're fine. I mean, hell, look at Terran. What does Terran have? He has 3 Marines. All right, good, you're fine. But for a Zerg player to suddenly have only this much information and to be taking a third base And to have seen a Reaper and to have it shut down your vision, that can be a very, very scary thing. But no, Zessie does the right thing. Look at that. Look at all those drones being built. Look at those drones. Macros slipping. This is a bump. This is some bumpiness that we want to work on. But look at the decision making. Ends up being spot the hell on. Super the hell spot on. And amazingly, we have way more stuff than we ordinarily would. We managed to regain control of that watchtower. Excellent. There's our 4th hatch popping up. And after we get that 4th hatch up, and after we get that baneling nest up, look at this. Had 1 guy in gas until the baneling nest got built, and now has a bunch of guys in gas. Zessie is playing pretty gosh darn perfectly, with the exception of these bumps. And now that I've separated this idea of strategic errors, you know, something like I built a roach warren versus I built a baneling nest. The choice can be right or wrong. Now that we have those decisions and then we have bumps, I want to just state that if you are making approximately the right decisions, and then you really smooth your play out a lot, you'll get to Masters. Removing bumps is kind of it when it comes to this sort of strategy. This is a strategy that relies heavily on not missing these larva injects. Now, we're seeing Zessie have kind of high energy on these queens. Actually, this one has quite low energy, but we're seeing Zessie generally hitting those larva injects on the money, on the ball every time. We have some Overlord's position. We have some good spotting on the mini-map. Look at the ridiculous, insane amount of drones coming out. This is going very well. And what is the moment that we really have to be careful of? We have to build about 10 Zerglings right now, so that way if a push comes, we can go, holy shit, let me build some Banelings. And then I can build like 40 Zerglings behind and crush this force. Zessie playing about as carefully as he frickin' can. Adding these on. He's getting more geysers up. And the thing that is most delightful to me is that this distribution between money and gas is right on. We're not having way too much gas or way too little or something like that. But I do think right now, here's a decision problem that we're having in Camp Zessie. Zessie is not building any Zerglings. Yes, he has 8 Zerglings coming out right now. This is quite late. I think he maybe should have had those by 9 minutes, 8 minutes and 30 seconds. I definitely think those should have come up significantly earlier. Now, these Zerglings are here literally just as Baneling backup. If we see a big push coming, like this, now what we're going to do is morph these into Banelings. Look at how marvelously this is working out. Ah, how fantastic. 42 Zerglings in production. Kind of get why we have this extra hatch here, so we can flood with a ridiculous crap ton of extra Zerglings. Now, this is a clear mistake. Obviously, you don't want to build a geyser and then forget to put guys in it. But it's important that you know what kind of mistake that is. With a, I guess I would describe like with, I don't know, like forgetting, let's say we have like 6 bases and we don't put enough guys mining gas on our 6th base. Overall, our gas income will be a little bit less, so something will happen like we won't get as many Infestors, or as many Ultras, or as many Broodlords. It's like you want to be at 100% army size, and now you're back down to like 90% army size. In the early game, forgetting to put guys in gas is not you being slightly weaker, it's you not having a core upgrade. This does not affect any of those core upgrade type things. So this is one of these like, yeah, you kind of don't want to do that, yeah. If, like, we forgot to put guys in gas early on, preventing us from getting our Zergling speed, then I'd really shit my pants hard. I'd be like, oh my god, you don't want to do that, Zessie. Zessie, though, does have 70 drones at this point in time, a huge force of units. And this is the moment where we're going to start to see some decision-making errors in Camp Zessie, because right now, thus far, Zessie's been playing pretty damn impeccably. Here is the big moment that, of course, happens to people all the time. In this daily, in the previous daily about Nestea, I said keep your guys pulled back as much as you can. And yes, that's what Zessie did, but he neglected to do any spotting here at this backside. And as a result, he got broken in, and he ended up losing this. But look at this brilliant decision. Brilliant decision getting all these drones the hell out of there. And this is the moment where suddenly we've been thrown a little bit off course. Not a lot off course, but a little bit. A little bit because, you know, we still basically effectively have 70 drones. And this is the real strength of Nestea's style. Many people would say, oh yeah, that isn't supposed to happen. Well, technically, no, it isn't. But I mean, Nestea's style isn't this weak-ass, ooh, he attacked me once, boo-hoo-hoo, I'm dead now. No, it's totally freaking awesome. We see the Spire was delayed. Perfect. We don't have guys in there. That sucks ass. We're getting our upgrades, and what is Zessi doing? Just playing real passive, building up units, and then we're going to see him eventually get a lot of Mutalisks up. His APM is really not very high. 63 APM, and he's playing absolutely stunningly well. All the upgrades coming out as it would happen with a Nestea. And in this slightly different situation, we're seeing Zessi. Uh-oh. He has his Mutalisks. What sort of decision will he make? I mean, this is obviously really good. But we're seeing Zessi just pull everything back, not really engage. I mean, he just crushed a bunch of siege tanks. He could probably rush up and crush this. This kind of decision is what I really didn't like. As we can see clearly, this ended up being a positive outcome. However, I really want to tell you that this is one of the most dangerous things that you can do is to get in this habit of looking at a force and being like, I'm pretty sure I can take that. Mutalisks go. In general, the Mutalisks should pull back. Why does it make sense for the Mutalisks to pull back? Well, we want to crush this. We want to pick off all the medevacs. We want to make sure that we're taking no damage. Our style is not about dealing damage. It is not at all. Expanding all over the map. This can happen a lot more easily if we pull back. Even in this game, where Zessi did come in here and do a good amount of damage, and he did kill this off, I think it is strictly more correct to take these Mutalisks and to pull back and crush this force off. So, Zessi, who basically did the Nestea style, I would say to him, in the future, watch this area a little more closely, see if we can cut down on these spine crawlers early on, build our banelings a little bit earlier, and be a little more defensive with our Mutalisks. Simple, small, tiny, teensy, eensy-weensy adjustments. I also think that Zessi is not expanding enough like a madman. And Zessi, and every Zerg player who wants to be like Nestea in this circumstance, what you want to do is you want to play like 50 more games in a row with just a handful of adjustments. Say you don't really want to be focusing that much on all these little details. I would go back to the guiding principles of Nestea. I would go back to something like, I was too aggressive with my Mutalisks when I should have been getting ready to be defensive with them. I was not expanding crazily enough. I was not careful enough with my extractors. That sort of thing is how you want to end up coming back. And what we're going to see is Zessi ends up just waltzing in, crushing everything for an easy win. I want to briefly go into a really wacky, weird game, because your opponent ended up early expanding. That's great. My opponent didn't do that, and I got caught in a really weird spot. So I have to completely abandon it. What I want to come to is this game between Eddie Two Hands and Goldas. Goldas does not do the early expand, and Eddie Two Hands is unable to do an early expand himself. As we end up seeing, here comes this SCV moving up. Drone tries to go down. Eddie Two Hands tries to do the expand. Oh crap, right off the bat, we can't do the expand build that we wanted to do. Alright, well let's go ahead and build pool gas. A lot of people will say, okay, well I can't do that Nestea build that you just talked about, Day 9. That's totally unacceptable. I want to steer you clear from that thought process, because we're going to see things get really ugly for our buddy in a moment here. So it looks like there was a couple supply blockage things that went on. I do believe Eddie Two Hands is a silver player, I want to say. The bunker rush ends up happening. Well, crap. I guess tries to pull the drones off. It gets canceled. Now, I want to highlight the difference between decision mistake and then one of these bumps. Pulling all the drones off to go down to the bottom of the ramp, I think overall is a correct decision. But the fact that we brought them late is a little bit of a bump. So, reason I bring that up, just so we don't end up saying something like, you know, oh my god, if this ends up going down, we're in a totally disastrous state. This decision to cancel this expansion after this, I think, is perfect. So now all of a sudden, we're in a totally off spot. And I want to just ask you right now, screw the fact that Eddie Two Hands has not taken his expansion yet. Screw the fact that it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get 3 bases up very early. What here seems very not Nestea-like? I know that sounds like a weird question because you'd say, well, nothing. It all seems totally off. For me, the thing that I really don't like... well, I do really like that overlay, but the thing I don't really like in the game is the fact that we still have units in gas. Remember, what are we using our gas for? Mutalisks? Banelings? Well, hey, in Nestea's style, don't try to get things quickly, just try to keep yourself safe and alive. How does this help keep us safe and alive right now? Little tiny things. I mean, the reason that this caught my eye so much is that when we watched Nestea play, the instant he got Zergling speed, he pulled everything out of gas except 1 worker. I don't care that we haven't taken an expansion. I don't care that we're not going for an early 3rd base. We still have guys in gas. That's a difference between us and Nestea. And look at this. Here's something that is great in terms of the spirit of Nestea. Carefully getting enough Zerglings here so that he doesn't die, and then just casually breaking down. We're not making mass Zerglings. We're not going for some sort of huge counterattack. This really delighted me to see Eddie Two Hands do this. And then he pulls his Zerglings down and continues. This second gas geyser I really didn't like. Why not just keep the gas geysers to a minimum and then retake this here and then try to retake this here if we see him expanding? We do end up seeing a Baneling Nest go down, and there we see the hatch coming down, and immediately resource distribution starts to come off a little bit. This isn't we messed up our macro, this isn't a bump, this is the decision to keep guys in 2 gas geysers early that is actually a big mistake. This early second queen, fantastic, love this. Early layer, no, Nestea does not like getting things quickly. Nestea would much rather power drones. He'd much rather get this upgrade up. And most importantly, he'd rather delay this gas. One of the most important things that we're going to see is Eddie Two Hands gets approximately back on track here. And, you know, humorously enough, we're just sitting in Eddie Two Hands' base. We don't even care about all this junk that's going on. We want, if we were playing in single player, we would be looking at just us trying to see exactly how we could end up being more Nestea-like. And this was not one of those ways. So as we speed things up, we see Eddie Two Hands doing the creep spread that we talked about, getting this 3rd queen up to be largely a creep queen. And now we're seeing this hatch end up popping up. We're kind of getting approximately close to it. We have these defensive Banelings up. Again, notice how that's kind of Nestea-ish. And then we're using the flood of Zerglings. The reason this I loved so much is we're starting to see, oh wait, that principle that Nestea used, I can use in all sorts of situations. The basic principle is get 10 Zerglings long before any attack, so that way, if an attack does start coming, we can throw down some Banelings, and with our other larvae, we can flood with Zerglings to reinforce. In the last game, our buddy did that with 4 hatches, and without his layer done. In this game, he was on 2 base with his layer done. He's still using that principle. And at this point in the game, we're at 11 minutes and 32 seconds. At 10 minutes in the previous game, we had 70 drones. In this game, we have 50 drones. This is what happens when you start doing this alternation. Where we make a couple of drones, a couple of Zerglings, a couple of drones, a couple of Zerglings, a couple of drones, a couple of Zerglings. There's our 4th hatch going down. And also, Eddie Two Hands is not actually getting the Mutalisks up. He's instead going for this pathogen glands thing. Totally cool. Does not bother me at all. Excuse me. Don't get caught up in the ultra specifics, like, yeah, he's getting Mutalisks at this point now, and he's going to do this with them. The basic idea of, you know, the way he defends with these Banelings, the fact that he's favoring drones so much, the fact that he's delaying gas by huge amounts always, so that way he can get more bases up. That's what you really want to go for. Going down this path, this is more Stefano-like, but still the fact that we are getting this 4th hatchery up, we're relying more on Lings and Banelings for our defense, and that we're going to rely more on front attacking as time progresses, that's what really gets me excited. It really, really gets me all wiggly. And so you'll notice alternating drones and zerglings. Alternating drones and zerglings, not what you want to do. You want to flood with zerglings. Excuse me, flood with drones, and then flood with zerglings. So we ended up at kind of a start where things went awry. But again, forget everything that happened at the start. Forget everything that happened at the start. I'm actually going to speed up just slightly more. Alright, cool. Forget everything that happened at the start for a brief period of time. And then we come back and note, okay, there's 3 bases. We have our 3rd base set up. We have a 4th macro hatch. We have this thing up. We have our main up. In the unit station, we have almost 70 drones. We've been doing pretty damn good on our upgrades. It looks like we're getting our flyer upgrades. We have the Bane Lane upgrades and all that good jazz. And we haven't really been focused too much on trying to attack the other opponent. We've just been focusing on defending. Yeah, perfect. Eddie Two Hands, despite that crazy nutty opening, has landed himself back where he was before. But the problem is he got back too slow. We can speed that up by, again, trying to apply all these rules and ideas we had with the original Nestea build to this completely nuts, crazy, seemingly different situation. And if we look at it close enough, we realize it's not all that different. Now we're going to come back and do part 2 of the daily where we look at Select's crazy aggression versus MVP. And that's actually going to be it. We're just going to be doing a 2-part daily. So I'll see you in about 3 minutes.